Take one, Mark.
Got it. You need a second six over there?
Do you?
Yeah, let's do one more. Sorry.
Alright.
Second six. And mark it. Thank you. And all set.
Alright, so Meredith, let's start with your name, title, where you work, and how long you've been with UTC.
I'm Meredith Lewis. I am the Senior Director in Finance over at Otis, and I worked for UTC for 18 years this year. I started as an FLP.
So we're going to start with the questions. So for each question, just start your answer by repeating the question.
Okay.
So when did you first learn that Amelie had type 1 diabetes?
We first found out that Amelie had type 1 diabetes in September, right at the beginning of the school year. She was acting like she was drinking a lot and had to use the restroom a lot, and something just didn't seem right. And she would drink her water and drink the whole water bottle, and she'd say, "Mom, I need to drink your water." And we're like, something's not right. So we took her to the pediatrician, and they said, "You're going straight to see CMC."
What's the experience with her condition been like for you physically and emotionally? When we talked on the phone, you talked about the shock of all of it and just that it's a 24/7 job.
It's been pretty overwhelming since we found out the news of her type 1 diabetes. It's a very steep learning curve. They send you to training spend 2 days there and try to figure this all out. But it's been a learning curve ever since we found out. And it's definitely a 24/7 job. You don't get any days off. You have to plan for her all the time. Sometimes there are sleepless nights, and there's a lot of uncertainty. Just when you think you've got something figured out, things change. You can do the same thing 4 days in a row. She can eat the same thing 4 days in a row, and the fifth day will be completely different.
And then talk to us about the scares and some of the low moments that you've had.
So when she has some variability in her blood sugar, she can go really low or really high, and it's definitely a scary moment. We dropped her off at a camp recently to try to get her. We still want her to experience things that her siblings do and other kids do. And there's at one point we were watching her. We can see her numbers on our watch or on the phone, and we could see that her numbers were dropping really quickly, and it was very scary. And trying to contact them and get them to give her something to come back up. But sometimes those lows are really scary. Her phone alarms, our watch's alarm, and it kind of sends signals that something's definitely not right. And even when we're at home and things like that happen, you give her something, and it's a long wait. You have to wait for it to come back up, but you have to give it 15 minutes, but it's a very long 15 minutes waiting to see that she comes back up.
How has Amelie's life been different? So you've talked about camp.
Mm-hmm.
What about playing sports, going to school, just meals? Just what's the difference been like since she's been diagnosed?
Yeah, since she was diagnosed, we try to have her still live her normal life. One of the best pieces of advice we got was fit diabetes into your life. Don't, fit your life around diabetes. So we've tried to do that as best as possible, but we've obviously had to make a lot of changes. She can only be cared for by us or someone who's been fully trained, so a lot of her after-school activities had to be altered. But she continued to play sports. We'd send her up for soccer. She played soccer, and it was nerve-wracking to watch her out there on the field and trying to keep an eye on her blood sugars or pulling her out to do finger sticks and making sure her levels were good. And, even just she may not have been able to participate in the snacks they were having, or we had to alter things like that. But otherwise, we've been done our normal things. One of the biggest things we did this season was to ski. We had signed up for season passes last year, and we were ready to go again this year, and we were wondering whether we should still do that, but we decided we're just going to keep going with that. And we had to make, some accommodations for that, but keep an eye on our blood sugars the whole time. And, if we're on the ski lift, we have to check her. One time we had to, get her to the top of the lift and adjust her insulin to get her to be able to have enough energy to keep going.
Can you talk a little bit about your support network? So how you've built that, how you've set that up, and just the people that have kind of emerged to be your support network?
I say we have an amazing village around us. When we had a training right after she was diagnosed, the grandparents came and to be trained, and we had 2 sets of neighbors that said, hey, we want to come too, which was just amazing to go and have a group of people like that to support us. They sat through a 3-hour training to be able to take care of her so she can still go and play at their house and she can go there after school and have play dates. And it was really just an amazing support network. And we have an emergency, we can rely on them. And because it's hard, someone really does have to be trained. You can't just leave her with anybody. You can't just trust anybody with her. So it's really been, our village has been a lot smaller, but, a lot more special.
That's awesome. So what's a typical day like these days? What devices do you use to help monitor Amelie's blood sugar? Just what's a typical day?
We were amazed at the technology that was available to us from the very beginning. It's, she started out with her finger sticks, but now she has a sensor that she wears, and we're able to see her numbers all the time, even when she's at school. So she has a phone that she carries around with her as well as her pump. And so she takes her phone to school and she gets on the bus, and then we can see her as soon as she gets to school. We can check her numbers. And, her day at school is definitely impacted by her type 1 diabetes. She has to visit the nurse to check in. She has to visit the nurse before every snack time, before lunchtime. If she's before recess or before gym, if she's going to do any sort of activity, she always has to check in with the nurse. Or if any of her levels are fluctuating, she does that too. But for the most part, we just have to check her before every mealtime. So I think that's the biggest adjustment we've had to make is anything she's going to eat, a snack, a meal, anytime, we have to plan for it. We have to ask her what she's going to eat. Then we have to calculate the carbs. Then we have to give her the insulin. And then you have to check because sometimes she doesn't want to eat what she said she was going to eat. And you have to make an alteration for that. Or if she could be running high for some unknown reason, and you have to make alterations for that. So it's definitely a constant monitoring. We're very thankful to have the sensor because we can see her fluctuations. You can see the levels on her phone up and down all the time, and we can make adjustments as we see them happening in real time.
So let's talk about JDRF. How did you first learn about JDRF? I know Ben said that they reached out to you, and just talk about the type of support that they've provided.
We found out about JDRF right after she was diagnosed. They give you a postcard before you leave CCMC, and I contacted them, and they connect you with someone and who will reach out to you, and they sent her what they call the Bag of Hope, which came with, it's a backpack that came in the mail, and it had all sorts of information, and it also had Rufus the bear that she absolutely adores. She was so excited to be able to test Rufus's blood sugar and give him injections. It's hard for her to adjust to that, and she feels like she's the only one going through it. So she was very excited to be able to practice with the bear and have someone who she felt like she could relate to.
Great. I think on the phone you talked about an event or a summit that you went to, and Amelie saw other children who also needed to test their blood sugars and get insulin. Could you talk a little bit about just that experience?
So recently, JDRF had a summit at the convention center in Hartford, and we went there, and it was really our first opportunity to attend one of the bigger JDRF events. And there was a speaker at the beginning, and he talked about everything that JDRF was doing and everything they're researching and investing, and it was really interesting for us to hear. We deal with just the day-to-day of managing her blood sugar levels. That's a big job in itself, but it was great to hear about everything that's happening in the future and all the future research that they're working on. And we got to go to some workshops and hear from other parents and meet some other people and start to develop that community. And she got to play with a lot of kids who also had type 1 diabetes. She saw lots of kids that had the same sensor she had or different kinds of pumps and the same pumps, and you can hear the same alarms going off. And as soon as the alarm goes off, you're looking around, which kid is that's alarming, or adult even. There were some adults there with diabetes, and so that was great for her because she certainly felt like she saw lots of other kids that also were struggling with the same struggle she'd had.
What do you feel is the greatest benefit that JDRF provides you or your family? I think when we spoke to you, you said hope for a cure. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it was great to hear everything that JDRF is researching. When you can go on their website, and we went to the summit, and they talk about beta cells and things like that they're really working on searching for a cure. You know, it's great to have all this technology and the pump and the sensor, and we can help improve her quality of life and help her manage her diabetes. But, you know, what would really change her life is a cure. And that's what JDRF is working towards. And I hope that, you know, she's 6 now, but maybe in 20 years, she doesn't even have to think about diabetes anymore.
That'd be amazing.
I know.
That'd be great. I would love to, when we talked about Amelie and her future and growing up and living with Team with D, would you share what you said about her dresses and you know all the dresses that she'll wear later in
Yeah.
life?
When she was first diagnosed, for whatever reason, I kept thinking about the dresses that she wears. She loves to wear princess dresses, and even with her pump and adjusting that, she was all, how do I do this? How do I manage my princess dress with my pump on? And we're working through that. I think about all the dresses she's going to wear going down the road, and you know, her prom dress, and one day her wedding dress, and thinking about that on those days, she's going to have a lot more to think about than just, you know, how her makeup looks or the specialist of that day. She's still going to have to manage her blood sugar, and she's going to have to deal with her insulin pump. So it's what I really hope for JDRF, that she won't have to think about those things, and she can really just focus on those days and those dresses.
Was the audio okay on that?
I think so.
We heard a little thumping, but I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
She cut across it.
Let's see.
What did I do? Did I do something?
No, you cut, your voice was above all of it.
Oh, yeah, you
Oh,
cut well. It was
because
fine.
there's stuff in the
Okay.
background?
Yeah,
Okay.
No, you cut well.
The kids downstairs?
No, that's fine.
Can you talk a little bit about just the support that UTC and Otis have given you with your team or your supervisor, just that support?
So when Amelie was first diagnosed, my supervisor was extremely supportive, and my whole organization was extremely supportive. She obviously required a lot of care, especially at the beginning. We had to really focus a lot on adjusting our lives to our new normal, and they were extremely supportive of just balancing what we had to do to take care of her. And over the course of time, too, Ben's obviously adjusting to a new role as well, and they've been able to adjust so our family can still support working at UTC as well as taking care of Amelie with her type 1 diabetes.
Okay. Let's see. What would you? What was that?
Hopefully I'm not like doing this either.
You're doing great.
Okay.
You're doing great. What would you tell someone who's just been recently diagnosed, or someone who has a son or a daughter who's recently been diagnosed?
To people who are recently diagnosed, I would tell them that, you know, it is a big adjustment, and it is hard, and definitely there's a lot of support out there, and there's a lot of community either through JDRF or other organizations, and it's very helpful to talk to other people and learn different ways of dealing with it. But it is hard, and it's definitely an adjustment for your lives, but you know, they still can do lots of normal things. You know, they're still the same person they were before, and they can still really do anything. We've been able to do more with her in the last 6 or 7 months than I thought was possible, and you know, she's doing great.
What do you want people to know? And we talked about this a little bit on the phone. What do you want? What do you want the message to be for the folks at UTC who are watching the video, the folks at JDRF, about your story? What's, I guess, the single takeaway that you want people to leave the room knowing?
I think I want people to know that, you know, it's a hard diagnosis to deal with, and it's something we have to deal with 24/7. There are really no days off, you know, even when it's Christmas Day, whether it's school vacation, whether it's whatever day, it's her birthday. There's, you know, this is something that we have to deal with every single day, every single meal, every single minute of the day and through the night. We have to, you know, it's something you have to deal with and adjust to all the time. And, you know, what really would benefit her the most would really be a cure. and that's really the only thing that will change her life.
Okay. I think I'm good. I think we're good.
Anything you want me to do again?
Not that I can
Okay.
think of.
Really? All right.
Maybe an introduction again, my name and.
Oh, yeah.
So name,
Remind me again, because then I started thinking, like, what did I forget?
name, title, where you work, and how long you've been at UTC.
Okay.
Might do it a couple times just to warn you. No.
Okay. You want my, like, official title? Like the senior director? Or you want me to just say I
you
work
could
in
say I
finance?
work in
Is that okay?
finance. It's probably
Okay,
more
that's better,
natural.
right? Okay.
Yes.
I think I struggle with that. I'm like, you want my real title? Okay. I'm Meredith Lewis. I work in finance at Otis, and I've been with UTC for 18 years.
Let's do one more.
Okay. I'm Meredith Lewis. I work in finance at Otis, and I've been with UTC for 18 years. Gotta make sure it's 18. I had to count on my fingers, too.
And
Should
then
ask
I wanna
Ben.
do one of these. Will you move the monitor back up a
Yep.
little higher on yours? And
You
do
bet.
one of these little more
Yep.
B-roll type
Mhm.
shots of you
Yep.
saying that same introduction.
Why? You want me to say it differently?
No, it's
No, it's just for different kind of
it's just
framing.
For me,
Okay.
I've got a cool shot here that it'll look cooler on. So I'll give you a chance. Ready? And go ahead.
I'm Meredith Lewis. I work in finance at Otis, and I've been with UTC for 18 years this year.
Great. That's good for me.
All right.
Thank you so much.
That wasn't too bad, right?
No, did I do okay?
You did great.
Okay.